Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. A couple days ago, I posted a reel on my Instagram and where I showed how I kind of altered some of these stickers, and I had asked the question if it would be helpful to kind of see a longer video for that. And there were quite a few responses of people requesting that, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little video about this. You can kind of see here are some of the ones that I did. This particular sticker was done with book text. We'll do that at the end here, but what I have pulled out was getting a lot of questions about the different kinds of things that you can use. So that first page that I pulled out was the deli paper. This middle one is parchment paper, like you would bake with, and then this last one is freezer paper, but you want to use the shiny side. So I would imagine that this would also work with wax paper. I just don't have any in my house to show you. And then I'm using a stamp here. This is from By the Well for God. It's from the Praise from Old stamp set. It's just basic text, and this is what I want to put on the back of these stickers. So I'm going to start out with, you can really kind of use different inks and try to, to see what the kind of result that you're looking for. I felt like black would show up the best on video, so that's why I'm using black ink. And I am going to be using StazOn, but you can definitely use archival ink in brown or black or whatever color really that you want. I've even done it, I'll even show you with Distress Oxide ink, but I'm going to be using StazOn for the black. I would also, I have tried it with, and it does work with VersaFine ink. It's just my VersaFine ink pad is almost dry, and so it's really hard to get a good impression with it. So I'm going to use the StazOn for the sake of it being nice and dark and black. So I'm just going to open this up here. With StazOn ink, you want to make sure you save that little plastic cover on there. It helps it so it doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to just ink up my stamp here, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp it first on my deli paper here, and I'm just making sure to get, a good impression. It kind of depends on, how distressed looking that you want your project to be. And then I'm just going to go ahead and move over to the parchment paper. And what you'll see with the parchment paper is that it's not going to hold on to as much of the ink, so the impression is actually going to be just a little bit lighter. This is more drastic with some of the other inks that I've used, but you can kind of see the difference there. It almost looks more like a gray. And then I'm going to do this freezer paper. The problem with freezer paper is that it's really slick, and so you can see here I smudged it because my stamp moved. So you have to just be really, really careful. Maybe use a stamp positioning tool if you're going to use freezer paper. I'm going to try and restamp it again and just do a little better job. I was a little bit shaky when I did this. So I just kind of very gently, kind of straight down and straight up, and that I got a better impression that time. It definitely works on freezer paper. It wasn't my favorite way to do it. I actually prefer either the parchment or the deli paper. So now I'm just taking my clear stickers. These are the stickers from By the Well for God for the current kit, Twisted Scripture, and I'm just going to pull off one of these stickers and stick it right down here to on my deli paper, just kind of trying to decide where I want it. And then I'm just going to rub it down pretty well. I mean, not like super hard, it doesn't really matter, but then I'm going to pick out another sticker and put it on the parchment paper here, just again trying to find one that will kind of fit within that text block there, rubbing it down. And then I'm going to also do the freezer paper. I'm being a little bit careful on the freezer paper because I'm not sure this StazOn is completely 100% dry, so I'm trying to not get inky fingers, but I'm just going to pull another sticker here and put it on here. I left this in real time so that I could kind of talk through this a little bit easier, but you really can use all kinds of variety ink, and depending on the kind of look that you're wanting, that it's entirely up to you. You could definitely stamp over the top. The issue with that is then your stamping is on top of your image, and it can kind of distort. I mean, just your focus would be more on the text than on the image itself. And so you can see here, I'm just gonna now pull this up, and this is still going to be sticky on the back. And so you can kind of see here the image that I got. I'm going to put this on over some white paper so you can kind of see just a little bit better the image that I got there. You don't want it, it's not so stand out that you're going to be able to to read it necessarily. I'll put it back on the sticker backer here. You can kind of see it has a more distressed look to it. And then this one is the parchment, and then you can notice that the sticker peeled off super easy, which was great. But you can also notice here where it really pulled the ink up off of the parchment paper, which is a little bit different than the transfer that you get with the deli paper. So I actually really liked this impression that I got here. It just make sure to note that the parchment paper is not going to absorb as much of the ink, and so the actual like text is not as clear, the image is not as clear, just because it's not pulling as much of the ink. But I really like how that one turned out as well. It's not really overpowering, and because there was less ink, it was just less intense. Now this one is going to be the most intense of them all, because this is really going to pull up that Stays On ink off of this freezer paper, and it's really, really dark. You could also, do this like a second generation stamping. That would be another option if you really wanted like a more subdued background. So you can see this one is really, really intense. You can really see the text behind there. It's just a lot darker because it was really sitting on top of that freezer paper. So I still personally like that, but if that's not your cup of tea, then maybe do a second generation stamping with freezer paper or a lighter ink, or, all kinds of things that you can do. So I want to stamp now with some Distress Oxide ink just to show you that you can do this. It doesn't have to be a permanent ink. And I'm going to do it, but just on the two. I don't anticipate that it would work very well on the freezer paper. So I'm just going to stamp this here on the deli paper and then on the parchment paper so that you can just kind of see how that will work. I just stamped that down, and then I am going to, this is, I'm sorry, in Vintage Photo is the color that I'm using. And I'm just going to put my sticker down over the top of this. I'm just trying to get this off of the release paper here. I actually really, really love how the brown inks looked behind here. It gives it just a more, like a softer kind of look to it. So I'm just going to stick that down, trying to get as much of this sticker on there as possible. This is a little bit taller than my text block stamp there. So, and then I'm just going to peel this up, and you can see it's going to peel up pretty easily off of the deli paper. I wouldn't leave it on there for forever, but you can kind of see it's really maybe hard to see on my hand, but I'll put it back on the backer here, and you can kind of see how that looks. That is probably my favorite one out of all of the ones that I did. I really love the Vintage Photo back behind there. And then save this paper, because I will save this and I can cut that out and use it as collage fodder or use it as a layering piece behind something. So all is not lost with the deli paper. It's not wasted. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the parchment. And what you'll see here with the parchment is the same with the Stays On. It just does not grab a hold of the ink as much. And so you can see how much lighter that stamping was. In fact, I'm going to just flip it over and do it again on the back side, trying to get a cleaner, like more ink on the back of this. So I'm just going to let that sit just for a second, trying to get some of that ink to transfer to this parchment. It just is, it's not going to grab as much ink. So you can kind of see how much lighter it is. And again, that's just something to know with the parchment. It's just not going to hold the ink the same. So your images are going to be a little bit lighter. But if that's the look that you're looking for, parchment paper is probably the way to go. So I'm going to take another sticker here and do the same thing. What I really like about the parchment paper is how easily the sticker peels up, and it really does pull a good amount of the ink with it when you do pull it up. So you still get a really good result with this as well. And again, I really like the brown behind there. It's just harder to see on camera. So I'm going to just replace that back onto my sticker paper, and then I will have all of those to work with. So now I want to just show you another way that you can alter some stickers. And this is kind of combining that packing tape transfer idea with just using stickers. So what I have a couple the same stickers from By the Will for God, and I'm going to pull out a couple different pages of vintage paper. So I have this one. This is actually from like an old Bible, I guess. I got this in my House of Books subscription kit. And I am going to put this down here in the bottom, and then I'm just going to tear this out. This would work with any kind of paper, by the way, but I just wanted to have that kind of vintage patina on here because I am going to try to leave just a little bit of the paper on there. And then I also want to show you, you don't have to just use text. You could do, like here, I'm going to use some music paper. So I'm going to pull off another sticker. This is a vintage classical book here. And so I'm just going to pull out this page, and I will use the rest of these papers in another project, but I'm just going to burnish this down really well because I'm about to put this in water. And so I just want to make sure it's stuck down really, really well. I'm using my bone folder for both of these. And then I'm going to go around them and just kind of trim these down, just tearing it closer to where the sticker is. That way I just don't have so much paper to fight with when I go to do this. This works the same with the packing tape transfer that I did. I did that on another video just recently. This is the same kind of idea, but you can do this with stickers. Now, if you're printing your stickers like on clear sticker paper from your inkjet printer, I would not recommend doing this because it will probably make your ink run. So just keep that in mind. But this, I did not have any trouble doing this at all. So I'm just I put these in a little bowl here, and then I poured some water over the top, and typically let this soak for a few minutes. It'll make it a little bit easier, but I'm kind of impatient. So I'm just going to go ahead and start working with these a little bit. I'm just kind of rubbing them between my thumb and my finger, and I'm going to try to kind of pull up one of the layers of paper. So I'm just kind of scratching at it a little bit here where it's sticking out past the sticker paper, just to try to get a little bit of it started. It'll just make it a little bit easier to pull. And like I said, if I was just a little bit more patient, I wouldn't be dealing with that. But I'm going to pull kind of this one layer off, and you can kind of choose. That's one of the good things about doing this with paper, is you can kind of choose the opacity this way. So if you wanted to, obviously you could just stick it down to book text and be done with it. Or you can kind of do what I'm doing here and kind of pull this first layer of paper off, and it's going to give it maybe some translucency. Or you can do it where you pull off all of the paper, or you leave some areas that have some of the book text behind it or not. It's really kind of up to you, but you do have some options when you're doing this particular technique. The only issue is, difference would be that this is no longer going to be sticky all over, and so you will need some adhesive to glue it down, but that's obviously not a problem. And this is another fun way. It just gives it a different look altogether. But if you want to be able to use, whatever stamp you want in the background, obviously, then you can just do that, stamp on some deli paper or parchment paper and do it that way. But you can see I'm just rubbing this between my thumb, and then it just kind of peels off, and then just kind of dipping it back to keeping my fingers wet, and just rubbing all of this paper off, and the image of the book text will stay in the back. And so this is what I'm talking about. Like if you wanted it to kind of have a more cloudy appearance, but still kind of be a little bit translucent, you could leave some of this paper on the background. And I would also suggest, like, if you're wanting it to be completely translucent, make sure that you kind of let it sit and dry. And then if it still looks a little bit hazy, then put it back in some water and keep rubbing. Because if there's a little haze on there, it's just there's a little bit of paper still on there. So it can look like you got it all off and it still have a little bit of a haze to it. So some of these I left actually with just a little bit more of the paper on the background just for some interest. But that's all personal preference. So you can see I'm just rinsing all of that off. You can kind of see now how that looks. And then, you can play with different, the fun thing about it, I think, is you can play with kind of like different fonts and different things, so if you have a bigger font, you're obviously going to have less. Like this, this one has a little bit of a bigger font. You can see also, this is one where I left a little bit more of the paper backer in there. So you have some areas that are translucent and some areas that have a little bit of that vintage paper, like, look. So you can see I'm just rubbing this between my thumb and my finger, and then just kind of look to them. That was just something, that was just the way I wanted to do it. But like I said, you can choose, you can do it however you want for whichever project that you are working on. This one I'm going to try to do completely. I'm going to try to get all of the paper off so that you can see it, what it looks like with just the music notes in the background. You could use a hymnal, you could use, you know, any kind of paper really that you want to use should work with this technique. And again, you can do this with stickers, or you can do this with packing tape. There are a lot of ways to do kind of image transfers. These are just kind of some cheater ways that end up with pretty good results most of the time. So again, I'm just rubbing this off, and like I said, I'm keeping this in real time. I did not speed up the video, so I'm sorry that this part might be a little bit tedious right here, but you can just see, you just keep rubbing and rubbing and kind of working it down, and I just keep rinsing my fingers off. You can keep dipping the paper down into the water. Again, letting it soak a little bit longer at the beginning probably would have been a little bit easier, but you can kind of see how this is ending up. And I will try to get this one completely clear, but you can kind of see where some of the paper is still stuck on the back, and so you just kind of keep working at it. And I did have on this one a little bit of the stickiness did come back, and I think that's because I got more of the paper off, so that I would still probably need to add adhesive when I use this piece, because it's not completely sticky all the way, but it just kind of depends. So I'm just gonna dry off my fingers and off my little stickers here, so you can kind of see what these look like when they're done. This is a really fun technique, and I like that depending on what you're looking for with your project, you kind of just get different ideas, but this is a way to just kind of add a little bit of something to your stickers and then give them some interest for when you're doing layering and those kinds of things. I'm going to hold this up so you can kind of see, this is that first Bible page here. And I'll hold that up to some white paper so you can kind of see the difference. I like this because you're using the book text, the image is really, really clear. My stamped image was just a little bit fuzzier, I think. But and then this is the one that I did where I left just a little bit of paper, just so you can kind of see the difference and how that looks. I just like that extra kind of distressed look to it. So another thing that you can do is actually you can do this with pattern paper. So I'm just going to show you really quick. I had a piece of pattern paper. This is just a scrap, and I used packing tape, and I did the same exact process. So this was from my pattern paper from By the Will for God. I had a little strip left over, and so I just put packing tape down over the top and then did the same exact process. I put it in water, and I just kept rubbing until I had all of the backer off. And then, and even though this paper is double-sided, you don't get any of that. It's just that one side. And then, again, this is not sticky now, but I can use this as washi tape or as a layering piece. And if it's shiny, obviously, because it's packing tape. But if you don't like that, you can just go over that with a clear coat of like collage medium or gel medium or matte medium, any of one of those, and it will make that so that it's matte. So you can kind of see, I'm just going to show you again. Here are the flowers. Those ones, again, with the brown inks were my favorite, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. And I think if the black was just easier to see on camera. So I will definitely be using these a lot in my project coming up. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That just helps other people to be able to find my channel. And subscribe if you haven't already. You can be sure to turn on the bell notification that will notify you when I have videos come up. And until next time, bye.